Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, is a phrase that I've often thought about and explored from different perspectives, such as philosophers, poets, Islamic scholars. The pain is inevitable part is easy to understand, but I've always wondered, how is suffering optional? And how is it even different from pain in the first place? To put it in simple words, pain is caused by an undesirable event. It's the thing that happened to us. How we respond to the event determines if we are suffering or not. Whether it's material loss, heartbreak, losing a loved one, these are the things which are mostly out of our control, just happens to us, and we are left with dealing with the aftermath. But there comes a point where the tears dry up, the wounds heal, the heart stops aching, if you allow yourself to. And this is why suffering is optional. The nature of emotions is that emotions are fluid. They flow through you, they flow through your body. The only time they get stored in your body is when you try to resist them, you try to ignore them or deny or suppress them in some way. People who suffer the most are the ones who lack the skill of emotional regulation. And let's face it, no one teaches us these things in school, or like these are the things you learn on your own. You have to like sit down and be self-aware enough to introspect things that happen to you. What can you learn from it? It involves shadow journaling, meditation, and just understanding yourself. And most people just skip this whole process and they just feel more comfortable to be in a victim mindset and think, oh, it just happened to me because that person is a narcissist. Asking yourself questions like, how can I prevent this from happening in the future? What's the lesson in this? What's the gift in this? How can I move on? These are the kind of questions that liberate us, that propel us towards growth. On the other hand, thinking questions like, why did it have to happen to me? Why did so and so person do it to me? Or reliving the painful event is overthinking, and this is the destructive part. This is what keeps you stuck. It inhibits your growth. Speaking of growth, pain and growth are like sisters. They often cross paths. Choosing a pain for the purpose of growth is necessary to prevent suffering of your future self. Physical exercise is an example. Like, why do you go to the gym? Do you really want to put your body through pain for no reason? The same goes for mental exercise. Like, you have to put yourself in difficult situations, getting yourself out of comfort zone to understand that I need this for my growth. This is the good kind of pain that leads to a fulfilling, rich life. Because imagine if everything was given to you on a plate. Here you go, you don't have to ever work for anything in your life. Would you even value it? Would you even be half of the person you are today? Would you have something to be proud of? So the bottom line is that it's not about the thing that happened, it's about the person you are required to become to rise above the thing that happened. Choosing not to suffer also means not engaging with people who are addicted to suffering. You can just wish them well and move on. But the more you stay with such people, the more you will identify as one of them. When I catch myself in a negative loop of overthinking or just negative thinking, I ask myself questions like, how is this thought serving me? Am I being cathartic or am I just self-loathing? Is this situation in my control? If yes, what can I do about it? If it's not in my control, how can I surrender to the will of God? And this is why you need balance of internal locus of control and acceptance of the things you cannot control. Putting in the work to repair the damage done, regardless of who did the damage, is your responsibility. And this requires courage because you have to point fingers at yourself. You have to admit that you are the only person you can control. I love coming back to The Map of Consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins, where courage lifts you up from a destructive mental state to a creative one. It just makes so much sense. In the famous words of Aristotle, you will never do anything in this world without courage. Is the greatest quality of the mind next to honor. It requires courage to put yourself out there and to be okay with failing. Everything is connected to courage. It requires courage to open your heart to someone. I think words are very powerful. Words have the ability of healing and comforting people. So here are some of my favorite quotes that help me in times of distress. The books that helped me, or you can say inspired me in making this video. First one is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. The chapters on joy and sorrow and pain are a must read. If you're looking for something from an Islamic perspective, then I highly recommend you get Timeless Seeds of Advice. It's one of my favorites, and it's just something I always find myself coming back to. I've also started reading This Is How You Heal by Brianna Wiest, and the way the author phrases the words is very comforting and it gives you direction. It's not just like compassionate, oh, you poor baby. It's actually empowering you to take the steps towards healing yourself. Something that I highly recommend to anyone who wants to process trauma is getting a shadow journal, shadow workbook. You can, or you don't have to buy a book. You can just Google questions, shadow work prompts on Pinterest. This is just to know yourself better, to understand your emotions and the things that happened. Again, introspection. Ask yourself empowering questions, not the ones that keep you stuck. And I think it is possible to not suffer. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped anyone who needed this. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.